I believe that today, career changes are the rule, not the exception. I mean, sure, your grandfather may have stayed with the same company for 35 years, but that's pretty much a thing of the past. Today, it's all about constant reinvention, sort of an adapt or die scenario, if you will. In 1995, I was a courier for FedEx. 10 years later, I'm a manager at Intel Corporation. And 10 years after that, I'm a professor of business management at Salt Lake Community College. And those are just the big seismic shifts in my career trajectory. There were lots of little moves all throughout those 20 years. I was a director of advertising for a community newspaper. I was a consultant, a corporate trainer, a technical writer, just to name a few. And I know dozens of people who have done the very same thing. And you know what? You can do it too.
Greetings, my friend. We are all interested in the future, for that is where you and I are going to spend the rest of our lives. And remember, my friend, future events such as these will affect you in the future.
In our previous episode, we examined the options available to you, your opportunities, through the lens of your constraints and abilities. These were your credentials and experience and skills and resources that you bring to bear. Now, I admit it's a bit of a wet blanket episode. It's really no fun to look at all the things you can't do and to feel limited. But remember, you are not limited. Nevertheless, it's really important that you understand the constraints before you, because overcoming these constraints, well, that's going to take a lot of hard work. And that's why we focused earlier on developing a why statement. Because when push comes to shove and we start to become tempted to back off of our goals, we need to look at the why statement and say, yeah, I'm still going for this. I'm going to overcome these constraints. But this does mean being dispassionate and looking at the constraints and really examining what you can and cannot accomplish. Okay, so that means that I'm going to now shift gears. I'm going to assume that you've looked at all of your constraints and your opportunities, and you have decided what you're going to accomplish. Fantastic. Now, I have no idea what your goal is, but I'm going to pay you the respect that you're due and assume that it is the right goal for you and that you are going to reach this goal come hell or high water. But this presents us with a dilemma. How are we going to bridge the gap from our current state to our future state? In other words, how are we going to get from here to there? Now, luckily, we're not starting from scratch. Let's think about the buckets that we examined in our previous episode. These are the credentials, skills, experience, and resources that you currently have, those which you have to some degree, and those that you completely lack. Let's start with that first bucket, the skills and credentials and experience and resources that you currently have. Now, it might be tempting to say, hey, I totally got these, nothing to worry about. But let's not be too hasty. These are your core competencies that will give you a competitive edge as you try to break into the industry. Next, let's look at the credentials, skills, experience, and resources that you have to some degree. These you want to develop. You want to develop them very deliberately and purposefully. For example, when I made the decision to transition into academia, I had some teaching skills, but not what I needed, not by a long shot. To begin addressing this gap, I signed up for some professional development at Intel Corporation and became a corporate trainer. Now, at the beginning, I just did some little training around the campus where I worked, but ultimately, I was able to travel nationally and internationally, conducting workshops and seminars. This gave me additional skills and experience and, to some extent, credentials that I could then use to secure an adjunct teaching position with a local university. I then taught adjunct classes for about 6 years, building my skills, building my credentials, building my experience, and ultimately I was able to finally land a position with Salt Lake Community College as a full-time professor. So it took stages, it took steps, but I was able to specifically, deliberately, and purposefully and methodically gain the credentials, skills, and experience I needed to make that transition. Okay, so that's buckets 1 and 2. It's the third bucket, those skills and credentials and experience that we totally lack. That's the toughest nut to crack. So the first thing you'll want to do is research what skills, experience, and credentials you need to break into that industry. Now, be warned, this can be pretty disheartening. After all, you're going to look at this massive list of skills and experience and credentials that you don't have. Furthermore, you may find that it's going to take a long time to acquire all of those abilities. For example, let's say that you're a certified nursing assistant, a CNA, and you want to be a nurse practitioner. I mean, how hard can it be? Both jobs have the word nurse in it, right? Well, as it turns out, the word nurse is about the only thing these two jobs have in common. Okay, so let me explain. You're a certified nursing assistant, CNA, you want to become a nurse practitioner. All right, the first thing you need is a bachelor's degree. Then once you have that, you have to go off and get a nursing certification. So 4 years for the bachelor's, a year for the certification, great. Now you have to work in nursing for a while and get some more certifications, get some specialties. Finally, you're ready for that master's degree. So you apply to a nurse practitioner master's program. You do that for a couple years, and then you get some more certifications. You get your state certifications, national certifications, I don't know what. But the point is, now you're a nurse practitioner. Yeah, sure. Took you 6, 7, 8 years. A lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of effort. So you need to understand what you're in for when you start down this path. Now, as you might well imagine, it's at times like this that your why statement is going to be very important, because this is tough. This is not easy. You're going to be sorely tempted to throw in the towel and just kind of walk away from your goal. You don't want to do that. You do not want to let go of that dream of becoming a whatever it is you're trying to become. So hold fast to that why statement. Stay focused on why you are making this career transition. Okay, so now it's time for you to get to work. Research what skills, experience, credentials, and resources you need to break into this industry, map it all out, and start to figure out what it is you're going to have to do to be successful. It's going to be discouraging, but do not let go. Do not lose your focus. You can do this. Trust me, with the energy that you're about to bring to bear, these obstacles don't stand a chance. But now, mind you, there are going to be a lot of costs involved in this transition. I mean, we kind of alluded to time, but there's much more involved. And so we want to think about that as well. So I guess when we really think about it, the downer portion of this series isn't quite over yet. But trust me, stay with me. You're going to be glad you thought about all this, because by thinking about it, you can plan for it. And by planning for it, you can accomplish it. All right. Have a fantastic day, and we'll talk to you next time. So yeah, it took me 6 years to move from the corporate world to the academic world. And a lot of folks kind of say, oh my gosh, 6 years, that's too long. But my response is always, well, are you going to be here in 6 years? You might as well do it.